Hello, I'm John Andrews and I'm the Head of Geography, Cultural Ethics and the World Curriculum at Manor School. And over the next few minutes I'm going to be taking you through the Sustainable Development Goals and how we've been using them to map our world curriculum. So we're based in East Northamptonshire, in a rural community with a boot and a shoe industry which has pretty much vanished. And so therefore for our students we recognise the context in which they live. It can be quite daunting to think beyond your local area. But we need to do that. We need to look to the whole of the United Kingdom, recognising their part within the country. But actually, beyond that, we need them to understand that they are part of the world, that they're a global citizen. There was a survey which was conducted between staff, students, parents, the community, and this resoundingly came out. So we want students to have a positive view of the world. This is quite broad, quite challenging, but it's something that we need our students to achieve. I'd really recommend this book. It's one called Factfulness by Hans Rosling, and it's a book which is able to explore how the whole world has developed over time, so over the past 100 years or so, and holding on to two different conflicting ideas. So this idea that we live in a place where there are still bad things happening, but actually things are getting better as well. So, what do we want to create? Well, with our world curriculum, we want students who are global. So we want them to be global citizens, recognising their place amongst the whole world. So we need them to be knowledgeable about contemporary issues. So those things that are happening now that are going to be affecting them and things that they should be affecting. They should be forward thinking, so problem solving, thinking ahead at the problems that are going to be happening. We need to be tolerant, so of different races, religions, whatever that might look like in terms of diversity. We want them to be empowered and also active, so they know how to take action and where they can go to seek further support. And with that, they'll have experiences, whether this is bringing in people so they can speak to them, or through that empowerment and that active role they have, they can then take some action. The next stage then was to have some sort of framework to underpin and to help us to achieve these aims. So we looked to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. I was going to spend a moment just taking you through what these are and the history behind them. So in the year 2000, the United Nations had 8 goals. These were known as the Millennium Development Goals. And these were focused mostly on social and economic aims for the planet. These expired in 2015, but rather than simply abandoning all the progress that had been made, the replacement, known as the Sustainable Development Goals, came into play. You can see that some of these social and economic ones still exist, so the first few, for example, but also starting to introduce more environmental ones as well, so from 13 onwards, and then also looking at peace, justice, and working together as a planet. So we felt for our students, if we've got these ambitious global targets that have been set by the United Nations, what better to motivate our students and to set challenging goals for them than these? So these are due to expire in the year 2030. So we have another decade's worth of countries aiming to achieve these. So now that we've got our framework with the Sustainable Development Goals, we need to look at how we can achieve this in practical terms for students. So we can think of students as perhaps evolving from a year 7 student all the way through to year 12, year 13. And we want by the time that they leave that they've got all the skills, the knowledge and so on to be able to be empowered, to be able to take action to tackle these global issues. So we start in year 7. We look at different topics like sustainability and diversity. And these are really important in terms of being the foundation for understanding all the different other issues that are happening. Year 8, then beginning to look at migration and poverty and attitudes towards these. Is it our responsibility or not? Terrorism, so going beyond perhaps just accepting that terrorism is bad, but understanding the reasons behind it and really begin to explore why people go down that route. And then looking at health issues as well. So different health issues happening across the planet and our responsibilities towards those. By year 10, there's a project looking at sustainability, so looking at their local area, but also looking globally as well in terms of the challenges that the planet is facing in terms of transport, urbanisation, and so on. The second part of this is then looking at education, so differences in education across the world, so whether that is to do with gender equality, for example, or differences in terms of race and access to education. In year 11, they look at a project which is focused on justice. So it's looking at studying different events and processes that happen in different parts of the world, plus their own understanding as well of the democratic process. And this then gives them all the tools to, in theory, leave at this point. So we recognise that some students will leave at year 11 for different things, and so we want them to be equipped at that stage to be able to tackle these global issues. For those that are continuing into our sixth form, they'll then be doing two projects which are targeting the Sustainable Development Goals. So in some way, they are improving the world. So the sixth form currently are focusing on a local, a national and an international project to help improve these. So we've got our topics, we have our understanding of the Sustainable Development Goals and why they're important for our students to study. It's important to recognise the links that exist between different topic areas. So for example, if we look at number 12, the 12th Sustainable Development Goal, responsible consumption and production, there's clear links between the sustainability unit in year 7 and then when they look at poverty in year 8. Similarly, when we look at justice, strong institutions, there'll be links to year 11. We make these explicit to students. Finally, climate action. So continually reminding students that they are studying the Sustainable Development Goals and the action that they can take. When we map these across all the different units, we can see there's a natural progression from one unit to the next, but also all these links that mesh together. And this begins to help students to understand all the links that exist and then therefore why the sustainable goals are so important. So what does this look like in practice then? Well, on a Wednesday afternoon, all students are involved in a work world wellness lesson. And when they're in their world rotation for this, they're being taught by teachers, so a third of the staff are being trained in terms of becoming world specialists. So they have a full understanding of the Sustainable Development Goals and what this means and the importance of these. So the very first lesson they come into for their world lesson is this one. So in year 7, how can we solve global problems? And I think this is really powerful in terms of making sure that students recognise two things. So firstly, that they should be solving global issues, but also that they are part of something bigger. So they're part of a global system. By year 9, they'll be looking at very controversial issues. So what is a terrorist? We want students to be critical of information they receive and understand why certain things happen, and also giving them the safety and the security to question things. Year 11, so what does justice mean? So the sense that they should be taking action. What is democracy? What is governance? And then also recognise that there are different systems in different parts of the world and then how they operate. Because we want to produce students who are all of these things, don't we? We want them to have the ideas and the bravery to share those ideas, to recognise the connections that exist between different parts of the world or even within their own class environment. We need them to have that passion, that spark or that flame to think about those global issues and take some action. We want to provide that safe environment so that students feel that they can speak and share different opinions freely. Because ultimately we want to produce these, don't we? We want them to be the next Malala Yousafzais, the youngest recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, or the Greta Thunbergs tackling climate change, or speaking on behalf of stopping gun violence in America. All these different things, that's what we want from our students. Thank you very much for your time in terms of listening to this. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you.